Oh, I'm here with Mohammad and Ashraf, who run a project called Activepieces, and we're going to discuss commercializing open source. Now, you want to introduce Activepieces very, very quickly and then ask the first question?
Sure. Hi, Sid. Thank you for having us. So Activepieces is an open source no-code business automation tool. We have 3,500 stars on GitHub and over 10,000 users now. And my first question is, did the early customers of GitLab start by adopting the open source version of it, or was a different situation?
Yeah, for sure. It was the open source version because for the first year, kind of 1.5 years, there was only the open source version. So that's where it started. And then I think even today, still a lot of our usage is on the open source, the completely open source version of GitLab.
Okay, so that segment who converted into enterprise customers, what do you think was the trigger that they asked about the enterprise edition?
It's different reasons, but you can look, for example, on our pricing page at GitLab, what the features are that we commercialize, and what we use a framework called the buyer-based open core framework to determine that. And that says the features that your individual contributors care most about should be open source, and the features that managers and executive care most about should be proprietary.
Okay, so that's we have another question. So in early days, we have a users, but we want to sell enterprise, but we don't know what's the features that important for enterprises. So did you, in early stage of GitLab, did you do any free pilots, or was like everything you do with the enterprise has to be paid, even like paid pilot? What is the limit here?
Yeah, we allow still today for a trial, like a 30-day or 45-day trial. We never did pilots per se. And what we kind of waited for the enterprises to come out of the woodworks and saying, hey, we're using you, but we need feature XYZ. And then if it's like, make it work faster or improve your documentation, okay, that's an individual contributor ask. If it's like, we want to synchronize Active Directory groups, or we need compliance reports, okay, that is an executive feature.
And when they ask for these features, do you just how do you go about them? Like, do you go and build them? Do you wait like for a number of customers to ask for them, or?
Yeah, it really, it depends. In the beginning, we made a mistake to charge customers for building the features. I don't think that's a good model. What you do is you charge for the software, and then you build the features kind of for free. And then you try to estimate the demand for a feature, which is like how many organizations are interested and how bad do they want it. And sometimes when you have a large customer who just really needs one particular feature and the feature makes a ton of sense, you just build that. And sometimes you have multiple people asking, but it would really complicate your code base, and it's a nice to have and not a must have. So it depends. It depends. Of course, you try to weigh like, how much complexity does it add to the interface, the code base, and the data model? How long does it take to build? How prepared are people to pay for it? How neatly can I describe the feature? All that factors in.
Did you build these features before they pay, or do you sign the contract first just to make sure they're willing to pay for it, and then you build it? How did you approach it in the early days?
Yeah, you can do different things. Ideally, you say, okay, we're going to build this, become a customer, start running our paid version because it has other things you also want that are already in there. And then sometimes they will insist on, okay, but you got to really guarantee to me you'll ship this feature. That's okay, but make sure you keep a tidy administration of who you promised what by what time, because it messes with your revenue recognition. In an early startup, not a big problem. Later on, it gets complex accounting-wise. So just keep a good track of who you promised what, and don't make promises that are like 3 years out. Like, it's fine to say, okay, if you close today, we're going to ship the feature in 3 months, and otherwise they can use the product longer for free or something like you extend their license for free, something like that.
And for the early customers, did you have like some sort of qualification criteria? Did you ever say no to some of these early customers, or like whatever brings revenue, you tried it out? And
I think we said no to things where we think, oh, there's only a limited set of people interested in this. They don't want it very bad. The people interested are in a niche, or they're all small or something like that. We say no frequently. Most of the time it's like, yes, but not on the roadmap anytime soon. And it ends up in the backlog, which is like not saying no, but it's also not saying yes. So kind of a weird thing. It's something you want to build, but not anytime soon.
So do you mind sharing like numbers from the early days, like the size of early contracts? Did you mind like working with like very big contracts in the early days, or?
I'm going to give you the worst example. We had a Fortune 1 customer who was running GitLab, and they wanted an enterprise-wide license. And I geniusly priced it at $1,500 per year. They had reserved 20 times as much budget for it. So I completely underpriced. Just getting the insurance to close the deal costed more. And then we had 2 engineering years worth of work to make the features. It ended up being a really good project for us because the stuff they wanted, other people wanted too. So we did well, but I completely underpriced. In the beginning, you tend to price too low as a founder, and then you up your pricing over time. By now, our highest paid tier is 50 times as expensive as it was when we started.
Do you think that's
you'll be better than me?
Do you think we should try to avoid that, or that's not like the most important thing now?
Like, it would have made sense to price higher. On the other hand, like, we'll be more successful because we started lower. I don't know. If I do it again, I'd price higher from the start.
Okay. Do you think you had like enough authority to price higher at that time? Like, for example, an enough number of customers to prove that you're worth that they pay this high contract value?
Yeah, it's always like, today we are the most complete DevSecOps platform. So today I feel comfortable kind of asking more than anyone else because it's better than anyone else, and the results are better. The reduction of cycle time was 7x. So I feel comfortable today. That time we were like worse in a lot of dimensions. But it turns out you can be worse in a lot of dimensions, but the people coming to you already know about that. You just care that you're better in a certain dimension. Like, we had a better self-hosted solution than anybody else, and they cared about that. So I'm a bit torn between, like, do you price for the overall quality of your project, or do you price because there's some features and niches that you're attractive to, and that those are going to be your only customers anyway? I'm not sure what to do there.
Is it safe to assume that you never did outreach like during that period of time?
Yeah, and in that time, like, I was running GitLab.com. I thought that was going to make a ton of money. It wasn't making a ton of money. But then we had all these inbounds from people running GitLab themselves, and we started making for them. So in the beginning, it was inbound based, but there's nothing wrong with outbound based. Today, we do a lot of outbound. So nothing wrong with that.
So another thing you mentioned is that you focus on-premise or self-hosted people. Was this the main differentiator, or was there other differentiator? And how did you find these differentiator in the early days, other than being on-premise?
Yeah, I think in the early days, being better on-premise, like our main competitor had a kind of a worse experience for on-premises, and so that was the main differentiator. Later on, we, like today, while still being really good at on-premises, we also have better security offering, better operations offering, better overall visibility on your value streams and things like that. But in the early days, that was really important to us. You just have to find that niche. I assume you compete with companies like Retool, maybe some of them don't even offer a self-managed version. So that might be an interesting way to do it. Maybe you can add customizations like certain hooks or something in the software that are interesting. I don't know, but you'll have to find that yourself. But you'll have to differentiate. You can't go just straight up against a big competitor.
So that's another question: is how did you deliver the early messaging for enterprises? So, like today we have a users, but our website has like to send the right value proposition for enterprise users. So, how did you capture, like, how did you maximize or capture the enterprise interest on GitLab.com so you can get these inbounds and like you are building the solution for them?
Okay, so I'm just going to blabber a bit while looking at your website. So it says automate your marketing, sales, and operations. Operations, okay, back office. So who's your top one competitor? Retool or something like that?
Zapier, Workato.
Zapier?
Yeah, Workato is kind of more suitable because Workato is targeting the enterprise.
Yeah.
Workato.
Is it Mercato?
Workato.
No.
Workato. Yeah.
Thank you. Now let's take that. One platform for intelligent integration and workflow automation across your organization. Yeah, I now don't know what it does. Okay, so they still do sales and marketing. You do ops. Ops is a bit vague. So I would say this is not super differentiated. It is what the product does, but I don't get why you're different than Mercado. It's open source. Okay. I think if you go to the GitLab website, oops. I wonder what it was. So if you go to the GitLab website, it says software faster, it says simplify your tool chain, deploy anywhere. It doesn't say open source anywhere. So maybe in this phase, it's still an important thing, but in general, I think you have to compete on other merits of the software than being open source, especially if you want paid customers. So I think open source can get you a lot of non-paying customers, but maybe translate what open source means. Like open source means you can add missing functionality yourself, and 10 customers did so this month, and highlight them. Or it means you have complete auditability of all the code that is run on, or something like that.
And what do you think about like feature-based websites versus value-based? So it's more like if you go to like usually enterprise websites, like focus more in like, automate maybe customer onboarding, while other websites kind of focus on the features themselves. So
yeah, I think
how
you need both, right? Why GitLab is kind of in between. Platform is very much feature-based. Solutions is more value-based. Although this is a lot of features as well, like value stream management. Still a bit value, though it's a bit feature-based as well. So I think you need both, and commonly you have a page called product that talks about the features, and solutions that talks about the value.
And from your experience, is there like software, like how to be enterprise ready? Is there like a certain certain features or certain messaging that has to be there so enterprise understand that it's enterprise ready and not for SMBs?
And I think that people get the hints through different things, like the solutions page, the customers that you list, the references, the customer stories, the certificates that you have, whether you feature a Gartner and Forrester quadrant. Those are
And
things
how do you keep the community engaged while you are like, you know, mixing the messaging between like the open source community thing and then
I think we found that the community doesn't mind that your homepage is a bit enterprisey. They're fine. They look at the code base, like as long as it's clear what your thing does, that's fine. They'll look at your GitHub README. They will look. The most important metrics is how fast do you respond to pull requests. That's the most important thing. And how predictable are you what is open source and proprietary? Those are really important
Does
things.
that mean we have? So in the beginning, we started by having our enterprise edition in the same repo with our open source and just differentiate the licenses. And now we have a private fork for enterprise. Do you think there's anything wrong with like having the enterprise version on a private fork?
Well, you are in luck because today I published this article and it argues that you shouldn't have a fork. It should be in the same repo. And for sure, even if you put it in a different repo, don't make it private, like make it source available, like proprietary license, but they can still read the code and contribute to it. But actually, I think it's a mistake to put it in a different repo. And basically it makes it harder to improve features that have, or improve things that have both open source and proprietary code.
You said they can contribute to it. So the community can contribute to the enterprise, or what did you mean?
For sure. They can contribute to the proprietary code. The proprietary license allow you to modify and submit contributions.
And how do they benefit? Or these are customers?
Typically, yes, because otherwise they wouldn't be using the result. They wouldn't be able to use the resulting feature.
That's interesting. And that's when you say like do you also separate the cloud? This is something that's kind of the confusion, because sometimes the enterprise and the cloud, which is like the SaaS offering, GitLab.com, and the open source. Do you also keep the cloud one inside your main repo? Like, for example, the billing.
I think that it's fine to have the billing code live within that.
So GitLab doesn't have a separate repo for like the cloud.
All the same. Open source, proprietary, GitLab.com, one repo, one code base.
Thank you. I think that's all the question we had. It's super helpful. If you don't mind, do you mind like sharing one story about early customer, from like how they discovered you and how did you end up closing the deal? How long, for example, did it take to close the deal?
So typically enterprise deals are like, I don't know, 3 to 9 months. But they've already been running the software for longer than that.
And what pricing point are we talking here for you to?
So today, I started off with pricing points that were a few dollars per user per month, and today our top tier is $99 per user.
And same sales cycle, same duration.
Yeah, and those don't really change based on that. You think that bigger deals take longer, but you'll have more motivated salespeople to pursue them.
Cool. And do you have
so basically what's the difference is you need to be talking higher up in the organization. In the beginning, we talked to managers, then directors, and now C-level execs.
Cool. And so when you shared the story about like the deal that you made for $1,500 and then turned out that you could have made much more, I think Mohammed meant if you have more stories like this, just to understand the nature of like how you commercialize and do sales. So do you remember like things from the early days, a couple of stories or one story that is interesting we can learn from?
I think like the really important thing is to focus on customers that are running the software over customers that aren't running it. Because their feature requests from people not running the software are typically, they just don't want to buy from you. And they'll come up with an excuse and it sounds plausible. And then you build that feature and they come up with another thing you have to do. Like it wasn't, they just didn't want to become a customer and they just give you a plausible reason. So much rather have like a customer who's running the software and very angry at you because it doesn't scale or perform in a certain way. That's the stuff to focus on.
I think this is very helpful. Yeah.